that is the ultimate competition.
All right, last question. Do you remember first meeting Dana White, or when you first sat down with Dana White?
I sure do.
What was it like?
You know what? I wasn't even. They hadn't even picked me for the show yet. They pulled me into an office. I remember it was Craig, Dana, Lorenzo. They were all sitting around a table, and I talked to them, and I told them, I'm Diego Sanchez, and I'm gonna be the UFC champion one day. And that's a dream that God put in my heart. And from the start of my career to now, I hold that dream in my heart and in my mind. And right now, at UFC 200, I'm prepped, I'm primed, and I'm peaking on Saturday night for greatness.
Where was that meeting? Where was the office?
The office for that meeting was at the old UFC building
in Vegas.
It was the old old UFC building.
What did you do? Come in for a tryout or something?
Yeah, we came in for the tryout, and they had us up at the Station Casinos.
Yeah.
And they drove us over to the UFC office to do some interviews, and they pulled us into the office, and
that's how you got on the show.
Talked to me, and I was a bootleg boy, born and raised in the trailer park. Fighting my way up, and I still remember, walking in there with my bandana and my big belt buckle, and just telling them, I'm your guy. I'm gonna win this show. And,
what Dana said?
They just smiled, and they said, all right, and on to the next guy, I guess.
Yeah.
And they didn't know, All I know is that if it wasn't for Charles Lewis, I probably never would have been on that show. He was the one that was backing me. He was the one that was telling Dana, this guy from Albuquerque, he's an animal. You got to get him in there. He's a welterweight, but just put him in there. He's an animal. He's going to do big things, man. Put Diego in there. Get him in there. Get Diego in there. And rest in peace, Charles Lewis, Mask, a.k.a. Mask. If it wasn't for him, I probably never would have made it to I never would have gone on the Ultimate Fighter, been the first Ultimate Fighter. I believe I still would have made it to the UFC. But, my path was through the Ultimate Fighter, and to be a pioneer of a television show that would educate the masses about the UFC and about mixed martial arts, and pull the UFC out of a $40 million debt into now what is estimated a $4 billion sale. So here we go, 11 years later, and it's been 10 years, but I'm telling you right now, look at me. I don't look 34.
Look good.
Hey, and I do not feel 34. I feel like I'm 24. I feel better than the day that I walked into Dana's office, and I am excited, and I'm just pumped for 200. I just see that 200 over there and that Joe Lozon sign, and I just can't stop staring at it. I just can't stop staring at it because I put 200% for the 200, and that's been my whole thing. 200 for the 200. To bring home 200 for the 200. 200 bonus. 200 paychecks. I'm bringing home 200 for the 200. That's been the slogan in my mind for this training camp, and it will be 200% for the 200 come Saturday night.
Good luck.